Please welcome Director of Marketing Communications for WSWA, Emily Magrum.
Hi, everyone. In today's digital world, our communities are no longer limited geographically. It's now easier than ever to connect with peers, colleagues, and customers all over the globe. Building your online community and nurturing these positive connections can expand your brand exponentially. During this session, our speakers will teach you how to best identify key influential ambassadors in your network and how to best leverage those relationships. Please welcome to the stage founder of Beautiful Booze, Natalie Migliorini, and content creator of Little Lane Media Productions, James Stevenson.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Emily.
you.
Hey, yo.
Hi.
It's good to see everyone's faces.
Yes.
Thanks
we
for coming.
see some people from
Appreciate
yesterday,
it.
so thanks for coming. Our session's going to be a little bit different. Emily explained a little bit about what we're up here doing today. Again, I'm Natalie. I'm founder of Beautiful Booze. You can find me online on Instagram at Beautiful Booze. And James.
And I'm James, funnily enough. I was behind the scenes of Beautiful Booze for the last 10 years. I still am, but I've also separated into a content development company called WSWA-Media. So we do a lot of professional UGC content creation on top of helping Natalie with all the work that she does with Beautiful Booze.
And we're up here today because we spent 10 years working with brands in the digital space. I've spent probably every single day of the last 10 years on Instagram. So I feel like I can give y'all some tips and tricks on how to find these influential people within your community. And I just wanted to also say, before we get started, if y'all have any questions on anything that we're saying up here, if you just want to raise your hand and ask them, you won't be interrupting. We like to make this as interactive as possible. And even though it feels not as intimate standing up on the stage like talking, please feel free to raise your hand and ask us clarifications or anything that you might want to know, and hopefully you'll be able to answer. I also wanted to say, like I said yesterday, if you want a copy of this presentation, we are happy to email it to you. We have our email up here at the very bottom of the screen. It's beautifulbooze@gmail.com. So you can just email us, and we are happy to send this presentation to you so you don't have to like take notes or like write stuff down. You can just
And it comes with the footnotes that way as well, which is really helpful.
It will also come with our notes that we have that support this presentation.
And feel free to follow us on social media as well. Beautiful Booze and Little Lane Media if you're not already.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I'm definitely going to kick off this one and kind of why you're here. What are the benefits? Why should you be listening? Why do you want to learn things about all of this? So the biggest one is obviously your increased reach. Your brand identity digitally is super important these days. So working with influential people and influencers in your community and throughout the world really now is a great way to increase that reach. It's the number one way really. There's promotions through many different mediums, but definitely value for money we've found over the last 10 years and definitely in the last 4 to 5, the increase in awareness of a brand through digital communications is increased exponentially. So it's a huge part, and it's also the best way to reach a target audience. So when you are looking to reach out to influential people in your community, influencers and all the such, it's really good first and foremost to identify who your target audience is. So for instance, Beautiful Booze, located in New York City. We travel the world and the country a lot for work, but our audience is New York City, London, LA. We do have a very national and international audience. So if you're only available in Texas, if you're only available in California, it's really good to pay attention to influential people and influencers in those communities because they're going to have the greatest impact. So step number one when you are looking at influencers and influential people is, sorry, I keep saying the two and I'll get to that eventually. Yeah. But the greatest thing is to actually identify if their community is the community you're trying to reach. Hitting up somebody that lives in Seattle that has a great audience, but they're 95% in Washington State may not be the right person, even if they have a huge reach. So that's huge. And working with influential people and influencers is all about reaching out to a community and say, for your brand, when you put up a post saying, damn, I make a good tequila sour, okay? People look at that and that's sales. that's a sales pitch from a brand. But if you work with an influential person, somebody that has spent time building it from the ground up, building a community that they now trust their advice. They trust that when they say, I made the best drink today and this was the product I used, it carries more weight. It's no longer a sales pitch, it's an opinion of somebody that they respect, an opinion of somebody that they go to for information. So it carries a little more weight than a brand saying, my product's amazing, drink it. So that's a big part of it. And obviously through all of this, what you want is engagement. That's the end game. You want followers, you want comments, you want likes. Anything that kind of counts as engagement, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of the outline and our goals for this presentation. Those are kind of the things we are going to talk about and go through here so you can better network with those people online.
I'm back?
Are you
Okay.
Yes.
She's good at this, all right? She's the face of the business, so she's good at this, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So y'all are also taking a huge step in this, and
Yes.
from being here, but
Yep.
one of the biggest things we talk about for finding the right audience, talking to the right people, and kind of figuring out who to talk to is going to brand conferences or business conferences. Some places like WSWA, a local bar industry event, going to, I don't know, another conference in the industry. I'm not going to name them all, obviously. So going there and kind of mingling with people, talking to different people, whether it's on the brand side, discussing with other people that do what you do and who they work with is a great way to do it, as well as finding the media at these events, talking to them, how they work and who they work with. It's a great way to kind of build that community and start those conversations that you can then take digitally. As well from that is utilizing the relevant platforms. Super, super important. We know TikTok is going to get something viral eventually. You're going to do it. But TikTok and alcohol don't mix. You can use it, you can definitely build awareness on there, but TikTok doesn't show age demographics, analytics, and it is not a place where alcohol mixes with the relevant audience because you don't know who the audience is. You can't see that. So we utilize Instagram, obviously. Facebook is great for a different demographic. You'll see that Instagram in the modern era has taken over the 28-year-old to the 45-year-old. And those are the people that are still young enough to experiment in the alcohol that they want to try. They're willing to try something new and they have that little bit of expendable cash to kind of pay a little bit more for something just to try it out. Facebook has the older demographic, 40 plus, and obviously there's still 30-year-olds in there. I'm on there, all right? There's still 30-year-olds in there, but I'm not. You're on there, and that's the 40-plus demographic.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome. You started it. So the Facebook demographic are generally people in the older demographic who have already made that decision.
Yeah.
I drink this brand. When I go to the liquor store, oh, that's a nice bottle, but I'm taking my guy home. You know, that's kind of the demographic there. So utilizing the right platform to get the word out to the right people that you want to reach is super important. So doing your research, I don't say which one's right, which one's wrong for your brand. That's my opinion, which it's great for social media, but don't take it too far, all right? So
I'm going to talk a little bit on the next slide. Is that up?
It can be.
Oh, okay.
It is now.
So when you're looking for these people
1 second.
online.
I will interrupt. Did anyone have any questions yet?
Yeah.
We did say, like, feel free. No? Cool.
Okay.
Carry on.
So once you're finding people that you think are a good fit to partner with and network with your brand, it's like, how do you know that they're a good fit? Like, what do their numbers look like? And when you go on to say, we're showing some analytics from an Instagram reel, when you go onto Instagram, you're not going to be able to, as just a person looking, to see all of these analytics, but you will be able to see likes and views. You'll be able to see comments. And what we like, people hold on to this like follower count, which we find is not that important. People hold on to how many likes did this post get. We really focus on comments. We feel that comments will showcase an engaged audience because it means that your community are coming to your page. They're not just, they may be liking, but they're also engaging a secondary method, which is leaving a comment. And secondary to that, you want to look in their comments of these people and see what are people saying. Is it just emojis, or are people having conversations? Are they saying, we love this, or they writing something besides just putting an emoji, because that's not as engaging as saying something.
Yeah, that's right. So as I said before, I started this whole conversation with influencers and influential people, and I switch back and forth on those. And this one kind of goes into that a little more. So there's a difference between influencers, influential people, and then you've also got influential content creators.
Yeah.
So there's the three different demographics to look at when you are doing your initial outreach and your initial research into who you want to speak with. So I'll start with the top. Beautiful Booze is an influencer.
I
Okay,
started
so-
out as a content creator, and
Right.
and it really took off from there. So I would say we're a hybrid of both. We do both.
We do.
Yes.
I'm a content creator behind the scenes, but if you
Yes.
reach out to Beautiful Booze, you can get that. But primary business, the cheddar, comes from being an influencer. So it's a business for us. It's a full-time job. We do this for fun and business, but our money, our primary business is being an influencer. Secondary to that, you have influential people in your community. So this could be somebody, I can't remember the follower count on the example I've got up on there, the third one. They have 2,000 followers. They have,
8,000.
I would say, under 10,000 followers. Yeah? Okay, so I'd say under 10,000 followers. They might be an influencer in their own world. That's a micro influencer still, but that person in a niche audience, in a niche market, that person, if they're in Asheville, North Carolina, that's a big audience. If that's where your brand is, that's a big audience. So utilizing that person, Asheville, North Carolina, may be more powerful than using somebody that's got 1 million international followers. So when you're talking about influential people, they haven't hit that full-time job, I'm an influencer yet, but if they're in a niche market or even in a local community, they may be more powerful for your brand to reach out to and talk to and build that more organic relationship that you're gonna work together on. And the third one, the middle guy there, I believe I've got Ben up, who is a content creator. He is a full-time content creator, professional photographer and video in the hospitality industry, but he's not an influencer. He doesn't get paid to post on his page. The things that you see on his page are clients that he works with to create content for, creating video, creating photo, and he uses Instagram as a portfolio to get more of those clients. So he has a huge reach, and he probably will do influencing if you ask him to, but his business is content creation. So there's the three different mediums that all come together on social media, Instagram in this instance, to reach out to and work with. So that's the best way to do it. And I believe you're up? Yes?
And one thing we like to give advice to brands on when starting your journey to reach out to people, really setting your own profile up for success on Instagram or whatever medium you're using, because when you interact with people, they're gonna come back and look at your profile. So you wanna make sure that it looks good. And so this is one thing that I tell brands all the time when I do this presentation. This literally takes like 10 minutes to do, and it can really take your profile and your Instagram to the next level. And these are some things that I suggest putting up there. Instagram gives you all these different blanks you can fill in on your profile. I suggest filling them all in. When Instagram gives you this space, fill them all in. So for example, my handle is @BeautifulBooze, but in the first line, Instagram gives you that line to put your name. So I put Beautiful Booze and I add cocktails in there. And I specifically add cocktails in there because I'm focused on cocktails, creating cocktails, and that gives you an SEO. So a lot of times you are making yourself searchable by putting as many things possible. It's just like Google. Instagram uses this as a search engine. So I've put cocktails in there just so when people are searching for cocktails, I'm giving myself the best success of coming up as one of their searches. Some other things to think about are any achievements that your brand has. I would definitely put that up there. Any hashtags, it's really great. I will say 9 out of 10 times, a lot of brand profiles don't put anything about their location or how to contact them. You know, people can reach out to you on DM, but you really want to have some type of contact beyond that. And we also wanted to say it got cut off, but there are, we'll show you in a minute. There's also buttons you can add to the bottom that's like contact us. They're just not showing up here. But just making sure you put everything you can, our custom link to buy your product or to your website where people can get more information. And especially like location, if you can, I think that's important. People want to see that. A lot of times with restaurants and bars, I'll find them, I'm like, this is so cool, but they never put that. And people are only going so far to keep like stalking you and looking it up. So I suggest putting all those things in your profile to have that solid profile. So when people come to look for you, one, they can find you, and then it looks very polished.
Yeah, and that's all of the information, as Natalie said, that first profile
Yeah.
bit. But below that as well, the content, that's what this is mostly about for me. The content that you have there, when people come to your page, you've done all this hard work, you've invested a lot of money to get people to send people to you, and then people come there, and if you don't have content that they want to see, if it's all just marketing and just like random information that isn't relevant to the audience, they're not going to follow you, which is going to retain that person. So it's also good to have those first 6 at least posts, to have those there and be available so that people can always come there. They go, okay, this is a business, but they've actually got some cool stuff going on. I'll follow them so that I can keep up to date with that business.
And so I want to just harbor on this a little bit. To be finding successful accounts within your community. So for this, another way to find people is following relevant hashtags, and you can follow them straight on Instagram and find people through that. So one thing is, if you're going to these events, like we suggested in the industry, events like this, you can follow the event hashtag. You can also follow the company. You can follow something like industry news, like Spirit Business. You can follow smaller hashtags and bigger hashtags, more niche hashtags to your location. This is helpful to see what is going on within your community. Yeah, and I put up Cape Byron Distillery because they were here last year, and they're somebody I found through social media. I met in real life, and then I actually visited their distillery after the fact. So, yeah.
So this slide here is kind of my grandiose example of influencers, influential people, and business profiles. This kind of showcases the follower count and the comments and engagement that these people are getting on these accounts. This is obviously kind of stretching it out to the extreme examples, but just because somebody has a huge following doesn't mean that they're actually engaged in the community and they're not going to hit that reach that you're looking for. They're going to ask for a lot of money, and your return on investment, as you can see, I can't see the numbers because my screen's much smaller, but the giant account has 180,000 followers or something.
They have 3
and
comments.
They're getting 2 comments. They're getting 3 comments. You know, they're putting up informational posts about their product, but people just aren't engaging.
Yeah.
Whereas you have the local ambassador, the influential person in your community who has 1,800 followers. I don't know the numbers. I'm just making them up, but they're there for you. And they're getting something like 30 comments, 40 comments. You know, it's showing that when they talk about something, people will actually have conversations with them. They want to learn more about what they're talking about. They're interested in why they liked something in particular. There's a more in-depth conversation, which will in turn increase your visibility. So that's a great example, an extreme example of the variables there with working with influential people in your community versus working with influencers.
Yeah.
You're up.
Yeah. So partnering with influential people, and we're going to go through this pretty fast, but there's different ways. Obviously, you can partner with them to share an experience. If your brand is having an event, that's a way. Also, when you do this, if you're looking for content, a lot of brands are looking for content. I'm looking for content. You want to make sure that if they do come to the event or they are taking photos of your bottle, that you discuss usage rights or you ask them if you can use their content. That's very important. You just don't want to take somebody's content without asking them. A lot of standard methods is, oh, I'll just tag them and that's fine. I think best practices is to ask, okay? So we like to talk about that as well. And
yeah, especially if you've obviously liked the content, you want to use the content to promote your product or your brand or your venue, whatever it may be. So if you've gone to that level, it's always best also to get the highest quality of that content. So whether it's a video or a photo, once it goes up to Instagram and then you copy it from Instagram, it's slowly degrading the quality of that. So asking the influencer or influential person, do you mind if I use your content? If the answer is yes, do you mind sending me the original file? Because that way when you post it, it's not gonna be that degraded image or video. So it's a really great way to continue engaging with that person. They feel involved because they're like, wow, this brand's working with me. They want to do this with me. They like what I'm doing, and it continues that conversation. So a big part of that moving forward that we also like to discuss is inviting people, having your brand ambassadors or doing it yourself, and inviting people, now we got 5 minutes and 30 seconds, we're good. Inviting people to a bar just to have a conversation, obviously conversation and drinks with your product. Inviting people to events, inviting people to maybe you're hosting a dinner with influential people just to kind of get your product and your brand name out there. Something that we find very important as influencers and as content creators is predetermined and established expectations. As an influencer, turning up to an event where we don't know the expectation in return for what you're doing, it's slightly uncomfortable. It does put a little bit of, not a black mark, but I'm going through the entire event being like, if I leave this and I put up a story, or if they expect a post and I haven't done that, am I tarnishing that relationship simply by coming and having a drink? When you say to me, hey, let's go and grab a drink, and you're seeing this as a business and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get something out of this, and I'm like, cool, let's have a drink. And then we go and have a drink and I go home, I put up a story, and you're like, wow, I expected more out of that. You're a little bit upset with me and I just didn't know that that's what you wanted. Predetermining those expectations ahead of time helps both parties. You don't want to waste your time if you're not going to get what you want out of it, and it helps us by not having that awkwardness at the end being like, I've just tarnished a relationship with a potential business partner because of that. So understanding the value of what you're giving in return for what you're expecting and predetermining that and having that conversation makes life a lot happier and easier for everybody involved in that kind of conversation. That's covering that side. We have like 2 more, so
I mean, what he's saying also is like we really enjoy partnering with brands and doing like brand experiences and getting that face time with brands. I do think it's super valuable when you go to talk to your audience about a product. It's not just something like you saw online or you received in the mail or whatever. You've actually talked to somebody from the brand or had an interaction, and that kind of preserves a spot in you where it stands out more than the rest. And so I do feel like taking that time to talk with somebody about the product or organically have drinks with them or just reach out to them like, hey, I like what you're doing. That's already a step up from what most people are doing, most brands are doing. And I know this because I've been doing this for so long, and rarely do I have people that are just reaching out to say, hey, I love brands, I love what you're doing. It's like, I want to get something from you. And you know, I understand that from a perspective, but I think the reason that we're interested in sharing this information is from the other side. I mean, people look at influencers and give them a bad name. I like to be called a content creator, I get it. It's a little cringe-worthy to be staying up here saying I'm an influencer, but I really do think that, you know, saying something nice about someone's content, messaging them, sending them a personal message, you're already have your foot forward with that person, because a lot of brands just don't do that. They say, I want this from you, and there's no, hey, how are you, or whatever. So being able to build those relationships, I don't think it takes that much effort just to slip into the DMs and say, you know, I like what you're doing, I appreciate it, this is awesome, I would love to like talk to you more about my product, and leave it at that.
For the outreach as well is something I skimmed over in an earlier one. It's really great if they have an email in their bio or anything like that. Your first point of contact when you are reaching out to partner with somebody should always be that email. It's great to go into the DMs and say, hey, I'd love to reach out to you and talk to you about working together. Do you have an email if you don't find one? Or I sent you an email. I'm just letting you know to look out for that, because it kind of becomes more professional. And Natalie, for instance, gets 50 plus DMs a day from random people just saying hey to businesses laying out their business plan.
I like it, but stuff gets messed up. Like stuff gets shuffled and then you can't find something. And if you're not following each other, you go to like a spam folder, and then you're going through the spam folder, and then you're meeting trolls, and then your confidence is down at a level of 0, and then you don't want to go back to your DMs. So it's like making both of those contacts, I think, is really great.
It also
but
takes it to a more professional space.
Yeah.
Taking it from social media into an email and a professional conversation versus just a DM conversation does, again, put you forward as a more professional business than those businesses that are just in the DMs being like, hey, let me send you a bottle. It's different. And that is time. We do have, I can't read that at all. Working with professional content creators, such as myself, it's going to cost you a little more than it is with an influencer, but the content that you will generally get, not always, Beautiful Booze makes great content, believe it or not, but but working with professional content creators for that additional content. Working with influencers gets you the visibility and the content, but putting time aside to work with content creators who do it for a living will give you a little bit more of a polished piece of content that you'll then use in your feed, so that when people do find you, you do have that content that people will hang around to see. And we're done, but this is just a last little note. When you are reposting, we already touched on it. Try and do as much as possible to get the higher quality video or photo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions at the end of that?
Anybody have any questions?
Of course. Yeah, it's coming.
So what are your thoughts on like marketing agencies or influencer agencies who are utilizing softwares like Clear and asking creators to connect to them to get those like back-end analytics?
Yeah, I think I work with a lot of brand partnerships that use that to pull the analytics. It's like, I would probably, if I'm working with them at a paid capacity, that's just something that we automatically do, is send the results of the analytics at the end of it anyway. So I'm okay with that. He might have a different opinion.
I have a different opinion. I do the business side of Beautiful Booze as well. It is great. It makes everybody's life easier at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Those systems are not yet set up perfectly. So there's a lot of manipulations in the numbers that you find. They'll read, this person has this many followers, this many likes, and that counts as their engagement. Whereas they're not seeing the conversations, the comments, how many people have forwarded that post to their friends, how many saves.
I mean,
so the engagement that we truly count as the best engagement you can get, it's not put into that number that you get. When it says Beautiful Booze is the best person for your company, we may not be. You know, we always are, but we may not be. So it is good to look at that.
There's two different ways you can use
course.
it. I'm saying people also use it for campaigns when you're working with them to pool the analytics, but they also use it to source people to show you who you can partner with. So it's like two different things.
I would use the system and see what that says, but then go and do that research on those. Like, find the top 10 people through the system and then go and look at those accounts to make sure that they are relevant for what you want and they are getting the engagement you're looking for.
Yeah.
They are good. We use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello? Do
Hello?
you have a clearly defined structure for your compensation versus the amount of content that you put out for a brand? Like, is there a standard for that in your industry where this is the compensation that we're looking for this level of content? And on top of that, from a distributor point of view, we have a lot of brands that come to us and say, we say, well, what marketing do you have? Like, social media. Okay, great. What does that mean? So our question is always like, what's the best way that you found to show the return on that investment? So I guess the two-part question is, how is your compensation structured, and how can you really show the value on the back end of that? Because that's where we really struggled. How can you show me the value that I got from this?
And your first question is really the wild, wild west out there. There's people asking for all kinds of things for all kinds of money. And so I do not think there's a standardization because, for example, like us, I had a seminar over there where I showed content that I do with my phone, and we also primarily do professional stuff. So that's at a different pricing, right? So like, what kind of content are the people producing? Like, Is it something you want to use and you want to invest in to also use on your channels? Or do you want to buy all usage rights and like use it on your website and marketing material and things like that? So there's a lot of different options. I mean, usually we ask for like, what kind of budget do you have? And I know companies are like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what to say right there. It's a really bad
Not
conversation.
exactly like that.
It's a really bad conversation for both. I wish there was more of a standardization, but because it's so wild, wild west, and there's like these people doing content with their phone, these people using $10,000 cameras, like these people have this many followers and this engagement rate, and it's like all over the place.
But yeah, and then on top of that, it's not just the quality of the content, it's also the business. We're two people running a professional business for 10 years. We have 180,000 followers, and then somebody came onto Instagram a year ago, bought over a whole lot of followers from TikTok, and they've got 200,000 followers, but they're still making good content. I'm the content guy again. I'm very judgy on that. So we've put 10 years into this. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into equipment. We've invested time into traveling and meeting with people and doing all these different things in the world to build our business. So our fee is different from that person that started last year. It's still a hobby. They're still working another job, you know? So it is the Wild West. There is no, oh, this person has this many followers, this engagement, they cost this. You can use that yourself to have a base rate on your expectations. So when you reach out to somebody, say, this is what I'm looking at for your account. Generally doesn't work that way though. So yeah, great question.
It just depends. Like I've spent all my money like going to conferences like this, like networking with a lot of people. A lot of people know me. I've worked with a lot of brands. People trust me with their product. They feel like if I work with them, they're gonna get a positive result, and the content I'm gonna produce is meticulous because I'm a control freak, and this is how I've kept the longevity going. But also on your second question about ROI, like it's definitely if you're working on an Instagram, it's definitely those demographics up there, retaining those and interpreting those to the same thing as like running an ad in a newspaper. Like this is how many people saw it, this is how many people commented, this is how many people saved and shared. And even though you can't see it, when you're working on a paid capacity with an influencer, you should get that information.
A part of that contract will be a week generally after the post. We'll have to send those analytics over to you to show the results from our end.
Yes.
The final note on that particular thing is generally, we are not salespeople. Influencers are not salespeople. We are in the marketing industry. Natalie had a great call about this morning. Think about the old school billboard. Think about putting an ad in a newspaper, something, there's no click through. You can't say, I paid X amount of dollars for that placement, therefore X amount of people bought my product. Using influencers is a marketing product. We post about you, we talk about you, we start a conversation. The more people talking about you, hopefully the better your sales will be. It's all about kind of organic placement with influencers is a great way that when they walk into the liquor store, they're like, okay, I'm in here to grab my Jim Beam. Oh, I saw somebody talking about the bottle sitting next to them. I'll grab that one and give it a go. You know, I trust that person's opinion. I've been following them, the content, all of that. So it's all about marketing.
Right.
Working with influencers and influential people is a marketing project. It's not a sales project.
And I'll also say if you want to see more results than you're getting, but you want access to their audience because they're in XYZ market and this and that, you can put some paid money behind that and do some whitelisting.
Whitelisting on social media
that can be part of your contract. And with these influencers, you always want to have a contract. Maybe they have one. We have a standard one that we use to make sure that everybody is in line and everybody's going to do their job with the partnership. It's essential to have a contract.
Yeah, and now there are quite a few popping up marketing agencies or management agencies. So we work with one in particular, and there are quite a few out there where when you reach out to them, you can have a conversation with somebody that's more in the sales side of things, that has a group of people from all levels, all tiers, and they can put together a package for your budget and say, okay, you've got X amount of dollars, here are the influencers, here's one big one, or here's 3 of the smaller guys, or however you want to spread that out. They can pull similar to the systems you were discussing, but they have their people they work with, and they pull those together, and they can put together kind of a guided budget collaboration with a number of different people. Were there any other questions? Yes, sir? We got a mic. Nope.
Hi. Do you for the small suppliers, as we're gonna work with some agency like yours, do you suggest to have internal team members assigned just dedicated to this role? But considering the size of the smaller suppliers, that might not be usually the case. So that would be my number one question. The second one is the AI generated visuals. What do you think about them?
AI generated visuals, like for your content that you're posting?
I'm okay
I
with
don't
it
know.
for your content, definitely. I think be aware of it because as social media adapts to that and different mediums adapt to the AI generated images, videos, and content, there will be better systems put in place to make it clear to the audience that it is AI generated. So I believe that as it advances, there are systems in place where it will say, this image is not a true, authentic image. This is an AI generated image. It's beautiful. It's a good representation of what you're doing, but it isn't real. And that's not here yet, so do all you want. It's, again, Wild West out there. Do whatever you want in the meantime, but just be aware of moving forward when these stopgaps come into place. I don't think they'll ever stop it, but there will be that indication that'll let people know what they're seeing.
And I will say, when you're trying to find these people to partner with, influential people like we talked about, it's hard because we run influencer campaigns for brands too, and finding people, that's some of the hardest part. That's why
That's the hardest step, really.
That's why we did this. And
Yeah.
then the first question was,
Having an internal person in the team
Yeah.
to actually do it. We highly recommend it. You're busy
Yeah.
as hell, no doubt. You're
Yeah.
running a business. This is essentially, if you have a marketing person, I would say influencer relationships are something that I recommend building with them and dedicating a small part of each day towards that. Running your social media account is in fact something that you should be doing an hour's worth of work a day. Whether that's someone within the team already, or you can outsource that to people that do that for a living. So there are people out there on a lot of different networks and mediums that do work with a lot of people just to manage social media. So you give them the content, you give them the caption, or give them your business information for them to create the captions, and from there they will do a lot of that work. You'll dedicate, hey, do an hour a day for me. Hey, do 5 hours a week for me. It's a conversation to have, and it is, in the meantime, while it is something as a smaller team, it is a good way without having to hire somebody dedicated to that.
like a freelance person, so
Yeah.
they're not, you're paying them per hour. We've definitely done that before. And then, did you have a question also?
We got the mic.
Regarding legalities and alcohol and shipping and like gifting and these kind of things.
Yeah.
So how do you receive the alcohol from the brand? And
Yeah.
because I'm always nervous, like, am I allowed to do this or these kind
I think so. I mean, I've received all kinds of bottles in different ways, and
Domestically, yes.
Yes,
International
domestically.
is different.
Yeah.
We need an importer's license to receive it.
Yeah.
If you are an international company, you do have to put it through your distributor or someone else
Yeah.
who can then send it. But internationally, yeah, it's not allowed.
Domestically, we
I'm
haven't
not going
had
to tell
any
you the
problems.
loopholes. It's not allowed. So internationally, no, but domestically, you can send liquor through the mail as long as the local legislation allows your liquor. We actually have a mailbox we have everything sent to because we're not sitting at home all day waiting.
you have to
So
sign
we
for
have
the
that,
package.
but that's up to the individual that you're working with on their process on their end, but
Yeah.
we've never had an issue. We have created some cocktail boxes for companies, and something that people are doing now, which, great time to speak about it, but is they'll put a Drizzly gift card in there to purchase the product to go along with the rest of the box, which has the other ingredients. So
If
if it
it's
is
hard
something
to
where logistically
purchase.
mailing a box to everyone is not as great, it's something to put in like a little gift card, a little note, and get them to purchase that bottle and have it delivered via
Uber
another
Eats.
medium. Uber Eats
It's
now.
now
but
Uber Eats.
I've heard the conversations around here that transition's not going great.
Okay. Yeah.
Different.
Any other questions here? Yeah.
Getting your steps in, Emily.
It's kind of vague, but just the topic of like affiliate, like an affiliate commission,
Yeah.
opposed to just like a flat fee. Do you want to
Yes.
kind of talk about that and your feelings?
I can definitely talk about that because I already talked about it today. So it's interesting because all over TikTok and a lot of people will be like, I made $50,000 this month. Let's do this. And I'm not saying they didn't. I don't know if they did or not. I'm just thinking about my business over the last 10 years, affiliate marketing. If you're making that much money, you're going to have to be selling huge items. So a lot of people will ask me, how much money do you make like off an Amazon marketplace type situation? And it's like, well, I'm not really a salesperson, but if someone wants my glassware, I'm like, here's the link to Amazon, and I make like 2 cents or something. Like it, for me, it's not sustainable, but I know there's a lot of affiliate marketing. We get contacted by a lot of brands saying, can I give you a code and then you can make 20% off for me? I've spent 10 years building a genuine community and an audience that trusts me, and I don't want to be that kind of salesperson, and I'm not. So for me, I would never do affiliate marketing because I don't want to constantly be selling something to my community.
It comes down again to the marketing versus sales.
Yeah.
Affiliate marketing is sales. It's not a marketing thing for us. And for smaller accounts, smaller people, again, influential people, influential content creators,
Yeah.
those people may be interested in that because generally what you're going to be doing with them is trading them a bottle or maybe a couple $100s in a bottle. Whereas if you were to give them the opportunity to earn 20% on all sales, they're going to work harder for that because they are going to get a greater return end result. As a company that does a lot of influencer marketing, a lot of influencing, and work with a lot of partners, we find, for instance, if you were to give us a bottle of gin and say, promote this product, we'll give you 20% of sales, there's going to be a tracking link. There's going to be us having to talk about the product constantly. Instead of a one-off or a long-term agreement with you, you're going to expect us once a month to talk about the product in the hopes that people buy it, in the hopes that we make an affiliate. So that comes back to that's a sales role. We're influencers, we do influencing and content creation. So there are people that do it, because we don't do it doesn't mean you shouldn't offer it to people, but it depends on the conversation. Just open up your conversation. When you find someone you want to work with, say, here are the things we're looking for, what fits your business profile, what fits the way that you work.
I mean, there's whole entire accounts that have built their business on affiliate linking Amazon products, and that's all they do is sell it on their Instagram all day long, Amazon products. That's just not my community that I do, and I haven't been successful in doing that, and I don't really want to do it. So sales makes me like cringe a little bit.
So just building on the ROI question from before, I don't know enough about the back end of Instagram analytics, but if I were to ask you to show us what your demographics are of your followers, so age and geography in particular, are you able to provide that to a potential client?
Yeah, so some people will ask for screenshots, which is fine. I can take screenshots right now in my Instagram account for that demographic. Because I've been doing it so long, and you will find influencers that have only been doing it a couple years that will also do this too. We have media kits with everything outlined, like our demographics, our age range, and all of that. But some brands will want to see like the screenshot of it.
That's
I don't know. I mean, we're putting truthful information on there. I don't know what other people are doing, but you can ask for that. There's no reason not to. And if somebody says, I don't want to give that to you, then like, what are you hiding then? Like,
that's a pretty solid red flag.
You're just asking for audience demographics, and if you're going to pay somebody or work with somebody, they should be able to provide you that information.
I have found, when I run marketing influencer programs, I have found that I've reached out to influencers and influential people. I have asked for demographics, and I've had multiple people say no, and that's fine for them not to. I'm not going to work with you. And I have had people say yes and show them to me, and they weren't relevant. I worked specifically on a whiskey brand looking for the New York market. So I reached out to all the New York influencers, and some of them, their primary audience was Nevada. Their primary audience was Florida. And they had a little audience in New York, but somehow their audience got skewed. Maybe they lived there and they moved to New York. But even though I thought this is a great influencer for this campaign, it just wasn't a fit.
Yeah, because just
So,
because somebody
it is
lives
good to look
somewhere
at.
does not mean their audience is there. I mean, I built my business in Seattle, but New York City has always been a primary audience for me. So it's like, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of why it's important to ask for those things, just so you're setting yourself up for success and getting the right people.
Yeah, we do have to wrap. They want
Yeah.
the stage.
Sorry.
We've overstayed our welcome. We're just going to head over there, though. If anyone's got any other questions,
Anybody has
just
questions,
feel free to
you
come
can
and ask.
email us, DM
Yeah,
us,
we're
ask
totally
us
open.
questions over here.
Right.
We're an open book.
Ish.
Ish.
Thank you for coming,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for coming. We really, really appreciate it.
I noticed some people that could actually understand Natalie up front.